the record, just a little rundown of the case. Mr. Guillermo was walking his dog, leashed with a walker. The dog escapes out of a car, unleashed, uncontrolled, and you'll see it attack and kill the dog.
My father is the man there with the walker and with Pee-wee, 69 years old. Pee-wee's been a family member, my dad's companion. My dad is yelling, he's not on a leash, he's not on a leash. My dad can't do anything, or, I mean, we saw this. My dad, he's scared. He's scared for his own safety and well-being, and he's destroyed that Pee-wee's gone.
This video and the recorded statements are from one of the vicious and dangerous dog hearings that take place every week in room 408 at San Francisco City Hall. These administrative hearings are the city's quasi-judicial response to the dangers that dogs can pose. Of course, not every hearing includes dramatic footage like this. It's in the nature of animal behavior that individual bites and attacks are largely unpredictable, and hence capturing an actual incident is catch as catch can, mostly video caught on witnesses' cell phones or on security cameras, as here in the killing of Pee-wee. And here. And here. Or as in this instance, recorded by the body cam on a park ranger, who was advising people their off-leash dogs were not in an off-leash area, but in an area where children were about to gather.
The official off-leash area is down the hill, regardless of anybody's told you. Oh. That is the official, legal. Okay. Okay, no, so please leash it. Okay. 3 William 24, I just got bit by a dog.
But that animal unpredictability is precisely what makes San Francisco's explicit policy of not enforcing the city's dog leash law so derelict. Instead of enforcing a common-sense public safety measure that, much like traffic laws, prevents incidents and injuries by penalizing inherently risky conduct, the city almost wholly relies on after-the-fact investigations by the San Francisco Police Department and these hearings to identify and deal with dogs that have been reported to display threatening or aggressive behavior or otherwise threaten or endanger the safety of any domestic animal or person. With little video of actual incidents, that means relying on vet and medical records, photos of wounds, and the words, the emotions of victims who have suffered an attack.
He was walking with 2 pit bulls and they came running up. Right when they approached, I told him, please do not let your dogs bite us. He told us, do not run. Nobody ran. They first attacked my daughter. I tried to get them off of her. He tried to get them. He could not control his dogs. They then approached my 4-year-old. I had to cover him up with my whole body. I didn't even notice my bite until I got in the house. We was outside for a while. The dogs would not get off of us. Like, they ran and came right back. It was trying to get, it kept going to my kids.
That is a moment I will remember on my deathbed. It will be every bit as clear to me every night for the rest of my life, from now until the day I draw my last breath, as it was Saturday night. Realizing that those 2 monsters were charging me from the darkness, and realizing that they were going for my baby. So I'll pick her up, I'll hoist her onto my shoulders. She's about 60 pounds, so she's small for a lap. But when I tried to pick her up, they were hanging off her. They would not let go. and I could not pick them all up.
And then, like, when I looked, like, it was running, like, and I feel like initially it went right for his, like, neck. I know the dog was on me for a period of seconds. It wasn't like a quick bite. It was like, I have on top and on the bottom, there's like a longer wound, and I have maybe like 8 stitches on top, and then there's a smaller one that I think has like 2 or 3, and then on the bottom I know I have like a L shape kind of wound, and I think there's like 15 stitches maybe.
Wow. Yes, 2 large puncture wounds. One of them had a flap of skin coming from it. In addition to the significant pain I experienced for weeks, the greatest imposition was my inability to use my left arm and hand for a full 3 weeks after the incident.
I was just walking with my normal gait, and as my left hand swung forward, the dog leapt roughly 1.5 feet and just grabbed onto my hand. You know, it was the mouth of the dog was all the way up my hand. And I had to shake my hand about 15 or 20 seconds worth to try to get the dog off. There were 10 puncture wounds on my top of my hand. There were some dents on the bottom of my hand, but thankfully it didn't go through. And so there was intense bleeding. My hand was swollen and still remains a little bit swollen. And since that's happened, I've been to the doctor about 4 or 5 times. I'm still in a brace that I have to wear for a month, and then we'll have to see. I went through 2 courses of antibiotics, and I've never been afraid of dogs. I've always loved animals. This has never happened to me before, and now I'm just terrified.
I'm always on the lookout. In fact, what's quite similar to the other complainants is that I walk this, and I kind of have like a little bit. It's not as lasting, but there's a little bit of PTSD. Actually, for about a month that persisted, that I was like, okay, am I going to see this dog?
He scheduled a referral to a neurologist since it was in the elbow and the ulnar nerve area. And I've had 2 meetings with the neurologist, 1 meeting with a plastic surgeon. Now, it's not a cosmetic surgeon. It's a plastic surgeon that would deal with like underlying structure.
All of a sudden, I felt a grabbing on my arm, and it was the dog next door, Prince, and I started screaming to get the dog off of me. I had 31 stitches.
They had to reattach my tendons, so I don't have my thing on today because my hand got sore, but I still don't have full use of my arm. My elbow is permanently messed up. And as a result of this dog attack, spent from that night until Thursday in the hospital, over 70, almost 80 stitches. I've lost my job. I'm in jeopardy of losing my housing and everything else because of this dog that was not on a leash.
I could see that she was on the ground, and that the 2 people that were outside of her home had one of her small dogs in both of their mouths, and they were shaking the dog viciously. But they had the one small dog in both of their mouths, and they continuously were just pulling and tugging at the dog as if it was a towel.
I was with a loving dog. She loved all of animals. She was so unique. She sang with me. She prayed with me. She was my companion, my life. And now she's back there in a park. No pet should have to live like that. No one should have to worry about their animals. I feel like I was at the zoo and a lion snatched my baby.
These hearings do not award any money for damages or costs. That's for an actual court to adjudicate. And while they can offer victims some sense of justice, their real purpose is to protect the public against future attacks from dogs known to be potentially dangerous. And that is an essential, necessary function of any city government that wants to keep its residents safe. But the current process has failed San Francisco to the tune of hundreds of dog attacks and bites every year. a 21% increase from 2016 to 2017 alone, and failed for one principal reason: the failure to back up laws with an effective, capable animal control department. And as a city, we have been here before.
Update on vicious and dangerous dog issues by retired Officer John Denny. John Denny, retired SFPD and current hearing officer for the Vicious and Dangerous Dog Court, will update the Commission on aggressive dog issues in San Francisco.
At a March 15, 2018 public hearing, retired San Francisco police veteran John Denny, one of the founding members of the police department's Vicious and Dangerous Dog Unit and a hearing officer for the Vicious and Dangerous Dog hearings, identified some of the more pressing problems at San Francisco Animal Care and Control, which under the city's health code is mandated to enforce all animal control laws, including the dog leash law and those statutes expressly designed to control vicious and dangerous dogs. Mr. Denny began with a little history.
All during the 90s, up to and until 2001, if you're playing catch with your son or daughter at the park and a dog comes up and bites, and you call the police would come in and say, it's a civil matter. Don't worry about it. Forget about it. And that's if you could get the 911 dispatcher to send somebody. 911 dispatcher would say, call Animal Care and Control. So you got a bleeding child at the park. They call, you call 911, they say, no, call Animal Care and Control. Well, Animal Care and Control would say, well, we don't handle dog bites, call the police. And they would be bounced back and forth. And it was just a mess. And nobody was taking police reports. Nobody was taking action on it. Then, on January 26, 2001, something horrific happened. A woman named Diane Whipple was mauled to death by two Crescent Canario dogs. The homicide inspectors for San Francisco Police took the case over, and they discovered 66 cases, 66 people who had witnessed incidents of those dogs acting in a menacing and aggressive behavior. But nobody made a report, and even if they had made a report, no one would have taken the report. And Sergeant Hearn and I found that appalling. We found that dreadfully appalling. So, prior to Diane Whipple being mauled, the police department did nothing. Afterwards, Sergeant Hearn and I got together and we made some of the changes that I'm just going to outline for you. We established and founded the Vicious and Dangerous Dog Unit of the San Francisco Police Department.
And though new San Francisco police practices could not save 12-year-old Nicholas Fabish from being mauled to death in his home by his family's pit bulls just 4 years after the killing of Diane Whipple, the city did begin to take the issue of dogs and public safety more seriously, even instituting a pit bull-specific city ordinance, while undertaking more diligent investigative procedures.
I collected every dog bite report that was made to the police department through Animal Care and Control, through the hospitals, the doctor's offices, what have you, put them all together, reviewed them, made sure they got put into the Animal Care and Control database, and then the cases that needed to go to Vicious and Dangerous Dog Court, I put a case file together, and then we would deal with it. Now, what we decided to do was, it's not enough just to wait for somebody to bite before you request a Vicious and Dangerous Dog hearing. Diane Whipple taught us that just menacing and aggressive behavior, because some of the incidents with Diane Whipple were the mailman would be in the lobby of the building where this occurred, and the two dogs corner him, and the mailman would use his cart to keep the dogs at bay. Well, no police officer is going to take a report on that prior to an animal being mauled to death. No, nobody. Another incident happened where in the lobby of the elevator, someone was getting in. One of the dogs nipped, didn't break any skin, but no report was made. Nothing was done about it. So Sergeant Herndon and I decided that we want to know all the incidents of menacing and aggressive behavior. We went to the police academies, we went to the in-service training, and we told the officers, we want you to take not only dog bite reports, but near misses, or if they get the clothing, or if they chase you down the street. We want to know about that because somebody's going to get a phone call. These reports will be reviewed. And that's pretty much what happened. And we got Animal Care and Control on board. Carl Friedman, the director, said, hey, you two, I'd love to have 2 uniformed officers in the Animal Care and Control building. Gave us a desk, a car, phones, a computer, everything the police department wouldn't give us, and so we moved in there. And one of the advantages was that our office was right next to their emergency dispatch line, so when they got a hot call, I could just jump in the van with the animal care and control officer, and we'd be off to the races. Because one of the problems animal care and control officers had when they showed up to police incidents, that the police would treat them poorly. And I was kind of the guy to educate the police. I said, no, wait a minute. We've all got to get along here. So there was a hand-in-glove relationship with animal care and control and the police.
However,
well, that's not the case anymore. There's a new administration at animal care and control, and things just aren't going well. Things could be done better. It seems to be kind of a poor fit. I'm terribly concerned. Animal care and control has nobody in supervisorial power right now that has had any experience managing a law enforcement agency. There has been nobody there, the director, the deputy director, the operations manager, and the acting captain, that have any experience in public safety, and yet they're running a division with a dozen public safety officers. There are no written policies over animal care and control. Whatever comes out of anybody's mouth there is the written policy. The field services officers that are running around in the vans, they have no written directives. They don't have a written directive when to impound a dog. The San Francisco Police Department has general orders, has a book, this big, Officer Crockett, of what you shall and shall not do. Animal care control doesn't have any of that. If a dog bites a child under 5 years old, do we impound that dog? There are no written directives for anything. They wing it as they go. But animal care and control also doesn't believe they need to have staff the unit between midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning. Now recently, we had an incident, you may have read about it in the paper, happened over at the Safeway near Golden Gate Park. One of my charges, a guy came before me at vicious and dangerous dog court. I had to deem his dog vicious and dangerous. A few weeks later, he walks into Safeway after midnight, gets involved with a security encounter. The security guard challenges him. The dog bites the security guard. They get in a fight. The dog owner stabs the security officer. The cops come, take the dog owner to jail, but they're left with the dog. Well, the police call animal care and control and says, hey, we got a dog here, bit somebody, would you pick it up? No answer to the phone. This is all about protecting public safety. Animal care and control, their emergency dispatch line, it's not even recorded. These people are not trained properly. They don't know how to, it's just a disaster. It's just a disaster. That's why I was asking for a public safety audit. I was in their office for over 20 years. There was never an independent study as to their efficiency or their effectiveness from an outside agency or an inside agency. Animal care and control is the only law enforcement entity in the city currently without independent oversight. The police department has the police commission. The health department has the health commission. The fire department has the fire commission. Animal care and control has officers running around with the powers of arrest and nobody looking over them. We need some transparency in animal care and control. When they drop the ball, we need to help them pick it up. Everybody is better off by that. All right? And that's why I wanted to show you this, because there's nobody to complain to. Who do you complain to that animal care and control isn't open from 12 to 6? You can call the city administrator. Actually, don't call the city administrator. I did that, and nothing but trouble. In July of 2016, I sat down with the city administrator's representative, and I outlined the problems that we were having. And to this day, I am still committed to solving this problem, to fixing it and making it better. And I always have. And unfortunately, the last year and a half on the other side has been kill the messenger. You call the Board of Supervisors. They call animal care and control and says, hey, we got a complaint that you did this and this and this. Says, well, we'll look into it. They're looking into themselves. There's no independent public oversight for this. Bites that don't break the skin are not considered dog bites in San Francisco anymore. Animal care control doesn't consider those dog bites. So I can show you pictures of bruises and hematomas. But that isn't considered. Someone will call up animal care and control and say, hey, I got bit by a dog. And they say, well, did it break the skin? So it's, well, no, but I got a hell of a bruise. Says, well, that's not really a dog bite. We don't count that. Dog bites that occurred in veterinary hospitals, training facilities, grooming parlors, wherever the dog bites occur in San Francisco, according to the health code, which is what we follow, they should be reported. Animal care and control says no. Now this is a clear example of what happens many, many times, the hematomas, all right? Most of you grandmas get this walking down the street, get bitten through the thick quilted. That is not considered a dog bite by animal care and control. That, if reported to animal care and control, will not be forwarded to Officer Crockett so he can review the information and then determine whether we need to have something done about that. 21 snitches, and animal care and control says, it's nothing. Hospital bite reports, women, children being sewn up at hospitals and doctor's appointments were being sent to animal care and control to be reported to the state, but were not being sent to Officer Crockett to be investigated for the vicious, dangerous dog overview process. There are at least 500 reports sitting in an envelope right next to the dispatcher's office at Animal Care and Control as we speak that I have never seen the light of day.
Okay.
All right?
So there is a pile waiting there to be forwarded then. So there's two avenues which it should go. One is to the state for reporting. The other is it should go to the police department.
Absolutely. We aren't entering all these aggressive acts down anymore. That's what we started doing after Diane Whipple, and it's not happening anymore. And it's not happening deliberately. As a matter of fact, we are less prepared for a dog attack now than we were before Diane Whipple. All right? Just want that to sink in a little bit. We are less prepared. We are doing less than what we were doing before Diane Whipple was mauled to death. Last couple of years, we've gotten to the point now where something very bad is going to happen. And we're all going to be wondering why we didn't do something. I know you can't run down the hall and demand that the supervisors ask Animal Care and Control to undo the damage they've done and restore the credibility and impartiality of the vicious and dangerous dog hearing process, which is nothing more than a kangaroo court right now, unfortunately. Out at Pursuit Park, there was a dog that I had ordered destroyed. A seizure order went out for it in May of 2017. We knew where the dog owner lived. The dog was there. Animal Care and Control refused to go pick up the dog. The dog had attacked 2 more dogs. I talked to Lieutenant Amy Corso twice, and she told me, we just don't have time, and besides, we think the police should do it. Well, finally, the people at Pursuit Park were so upset, they got Channel 4 News to do a story on it.
Happening now, police are looking for a dangerous dog in San Francisco. A San Francisco court ordered the dog to be euthanized 2 years ago, but the dog was given a second chance. Witnesses say the pit bull has attacked 2 dogs since that sentence was repealed. KRON 4's Ella Sogomonian reports from Precita Park, where dog owners are concerned the pit bull may strike again.
Is that Destiny?
Destiny's got quite the reputation. The adult black pit bull has been accused of attacking at least 7 dogs.
And the day after the story aired in October, the very next day the dog was impounded. 50 people signed a petition to the city administrator saying, hey, the person that your agency that you control didn't do their job. Nobody got a response.
And John Denny is not the only one to notice that something's not right at Animal Care and Control. In June 2018, the San Francisco Civil Grand Jury issued a report on dogs and public safety in the city, which took Animal Care and Control to task for, among other things, failing to enforce the city's dog leash law and failing to advise the public where officially registered vicious and dangerous dogs reside in the city. The grand jury recommended making this information more readily accessible to the public, as other cities do. It's not often in San Francisco that a dog deemed dangerous is ordered humanely destroyed. Only 5 times in 2017 out of 146 cases. And spared that last resort, such a dog must instead be registered at a cost of $250 to the owner and live under certain restrictions, including being leashed on a 3-foot chain and muzzled at all times in public. A sign visible from the street must also be placed on the owner's home, warning that there is a vicious and dangerous dog on the premises. In fact, Animal Care and Control has been caught effectively hiding dogs officially deemed dangerous, from redacting addresses in records provided to the public, to failing to ensure that signs are posted at those homes warning people, as required by law, that a dangerous dog lives there. Though even when there is a sign, does "Beware of Dog" really meaningfully warn people that living inside is a dog legally declared vicious and dangerous?
Happening now, police are looking for a dangerous dog in San Francisco.
To the kind of negligent indifference to a dangerous dog's ongoing presence exhibited in the case of Destiny. In that exact same vein is the case of Mask, a dog that had bitten 4 human beings in a 5-month period and had been designated vicious and dangerous in November 2017. But a dog which was allowed to continue to terrorize tenants of a residence hotel, tenants who did not know anything about the dog's designation or that as a vicious and dangerous dog it was supposed to be muzzled and on a 3-foot chain at all times in public. Indeed, Animal Care and Control had even complained when it leaked out that the dog had bitten a 4th person, an Animal Care and Control worker who had to seek emergency medical attention. They didn't even tell the owner his dog had bitten another person. And sometimes the problem created by Animal Care and Control's unprofessionalism begins even before the dog is officially declared vicious and dangerous. Little Dog was awaiting a vicious and dangerous dog hearing after having bitten people in 2 separate incidents when its owner completely abandoned the dog. Animal Care and Control tried to interest a rescue group in the dog, but when the representative from the group came to evaluate the dog, it bit the representative. Eventually, another group did take the dog. Its name was changed to Foggy. The dog was adopted out to a new owner, and it promptly bit somebody else.
My name is Ariana Lusinger. I'm the Behavior and Training Supervisor at San Francisco Animal Care and Control.
And even with officially dangerous dogs, Animal Care and Control's commitment to finding homes for their wards seems to override concerns for a safe and informed public. Just a month and a half after the pit bull Sincere was declared vicious and dangerous, having also terrorized people in an apartment building, and despite at least one study indicating that 40% of dogs that passed behavior tests administered by shelters continued to show aggression after adoption, here is a behaviorist from Animal Care and Control arguing that the vicious and dangerous designation should be removed, since it renders Sincere unadoptable.
Well, we would like the vicious and dangerous status removed so we might be able to find a replacement. It's not guaranteed, but she has a better chance of possibly going with a rescue group or a partner shelter.
And because the heedless management of Animal Care and Control now holds sway over hearing officers, that request was granted. Magic had also been determined to be vicious and dangerous. This is the dog that was subsequently used by its owner in a violent assault on a security guard at a Safeway grocery store. The police who responded to the scene had no way of knowing the dog was vicious and dangerous, and had no city facility to take the dog to because San Francisco's animal shelter was closed at that hour. Then there's Peaches, a pit bull mix Animal Care and Control returned to the streets and its homeless owner before the case could even be heard. Eventually, there was a hearing, and as a consequence, Peaches was found to be vicious and dangerous, and ordered to be put under all of the usual restrictions, though it's not clear how a homeless person is supposed to warn others that their dog is vicious and dangerous. In this case, Animal Care and Control didn't even bother to register the dog until a citizen complained to the San Francisco city administrator. But registration itself doesn't control or monitor a dog. And after it was registered, Peaches continued to be involved in other attacks on people until it was finally ordered to be euthanized, a year after Animal Care and Control had first returned it to the streets. Similarly, Animal Care and Control failed to appropriately monitor Martine, a dog that had been found vicious and dangerous and put under the usual restrictions, and yet continued to be the source of complaints from neighbors, such as being off leash. Finally, Martine killed a neighbor's dog, and Animal Care and Control allowed the owner to whisk the dog away to New Mexico without the written permission from authorities there that the law requires. Again, a citizen had to complain to the city administrator before Animal Care and Control even warned the local New Mexico authorities that they now had a vicious and dangerous dog in their midst. But nothing better conveys Animal Care and Control's willful recklessness with regard to dogs known to be dangerous than the case of Hudson. There is no video of the central event in this case. There isn't even video of the June 23, 2016 hearing, only an audio recording. And so we are back to the fundamental power of words and emotions and the victim's own account of her experience. On May 2, 2016, a young woman working as a dog walker was attacked by one of her charges in this park in San Francisco.
And then finally I was like, okay, well maybe if I offer him a treat, that he would prefer the treat over the ball, so he would drop the ball and just take the treat. But when I offered him the treat, he just attacked me, and he didn't just attack me once. He kept attacking me repeatedly. Sorry.
Take your time. Take your time.
Sorry.
Well, let me lead you along a little bit here in the sense that what position were you in when Hudson made his first bite? Were you kneeling next to him? Or?
I was like, yeah, kneeling, but not super low. So he jumped on me and pushed me down, and I fell on my elbow, and then, so I was down and I just didn't have any control. I didn't have any way of stopping him. And I was just totally in shock. I just could not believe that Hudson was biting me. And yeah, I'm sorry, it's just really hard having flashbacks.
I can imagine.
And I don't remember the order of the bites because it was just, I was in shock. But he bit me, I think first on, like he bit me and pushed me down, and I think that's when he bit my arm, my left arm, and I have multiple wounds on my left arm, all that drew blood. It was crush and puncture, and then he, and I, like I said, I don't remember the order, but it was my right chest, my left upper breast, my left under breast, my left chest, and my left thigh, and my right index finger. That's what happened. He attacked me and bit me in all of those places, and but he just kept going, and thank God that the owner of the other dog that had the ball originally was right there, because he was waiting to have the ball, get the ball back. So he was the one to step in between Hudson and I finally, and he had to physically pull Hudson off of me. But if he had not been there, I don't know what would have happened, because I had no way of getting Hudson off of me. He's really strong, even though he's like a medium-sized dog. But there was nothing that really I could do. I should have just gone to the emergency room right away because it was really serious. But I also knew that I didn't have health insurance, and I was nervous about paying the ambulance bill and the hospital bill. So I just like held off, but eventually I did get in an ambulance, and I went to CalPAC emergency room, and I was there for the evening, and then I was released later that night to go home, and I was bedridden for 2 weeks.
These pictures are overwhelming. Your testimony is overwhelming. The trigger?
The ball.
Well, I can understand a warning bite.
Yeah, but it was not a warning bite.
This is not a warning bite. This is a sustained, pressed attack. Yeah. The ferociousness,
right,
and the length, and the multiple bites.
Right, I understand.
I can't think of anything more horrific to happen to a person. This is a mauling. This is had it not been this is what happened to Diane Whipple.
At first, before coming in here today, I was just thinking that I just wanted to require Hudson wear a muzzle at all times. And be leashed at all times, because I love dogs. I'm a dog walker. I was a dog walker. And the last thing I want is to put down a dog. It's a really hard decision for me to make. Not that it's really my decision, like you just said, but it doesn't really seem like, after the last case, it's really possible to enforce that, and that's really concerning to me. Really concerning.
Hearing Officer John Denny concluded that the Australian Kelpie's vicious attack had put Emma Howell's life in danger and ordered that Hudson be humanely destroyed. But there is an appeals process in these matters, and at first it looked like Hudson's owner, Jennifer Malozzi, would take that route. But that's where the case turns very, very curious. Ms. Malozzi did obtain a lawyer for an appeal, but the dog was still supposed to be registered as vicious and dangerous within 10 days, in this case by July 4th, 2016. Instead, Animal Care and Control simply dropped the matter entirely and didn't even send an officer to the dog owner's San Francisco address until almost 6 months later, in late December 2016. At that time, the manager of the building advised Animal Care and Control that Ms. Malozzi had moved out in August and provided them with a forwarding address in Carmichael, a suburb of Sacramento, California, 90 miles away. But Animal Care and Control never needed such advice. The dog Hudson had always been licensed at that address in Carmichael by San Francisco Animal Care and Control 4 times since January 2012. Ms. Malozzi had an apartment in San Francisco and worked in the city, but obviously spent time at the Carmichael home of her future husband, Michael Bicheri. And even after being informed of Ms. Malozzi's apparent relocation to Carmichael, Animal Care and Control did nothing to try and track down Hudson, or even to advise Sacramento County authorities of the dangerous dog's presence in their county. And then only after we made a public records request for all records related to vicious and dangerous dogs did Animal Care and Control realize in August 2017 that they had a bunch of dangerous dogs they had lost track of, including Hudson. Apparently suffering some form of institutional amnesia, Animal Care and Control sent another officer out to Hudson's old address in San Francisco, only to again be informed that Ms. Malozzi had moved to Carmichael the year before. At least this time, Animal Care and Control appears to have notified the Sacramento County authorities, and then did nothing. Only after our emails to the Sacramento County Animal Control Department, San Francisco Animal Care and Control having failed to follow up, did those local authorities go out to the property and eventually learn in November 2017 that indeed Miss Malozzi had illegally spirited her dog out of San Francisco and registered the dog in Sacramento County under the name Jackson on that very date in December 2016 when Animal Care and Control had first sent an officer to her old San Francisco address. Her now husband, Michael Bicheri, reportedly a member of the Army, claimed the dog was being kept at an Army base in North Carolina. And by that time, it seems, the dog was in fact no longer being kept at the couple's home. Mr. Bicheri wanted to work out some kind of deal with the authorities to bring the dog home, saying he knew nothing about the incident in San Francisco or the order to destroy the dog, despite the fact that the dog's owner was his wife, and the dog itself had been licensed by San Francisco Animal Care and Control since January 2012 to the home he owned in Carmichael. Sacramento authorities promptly notified San Francisco Animal Care and Control about all of this, and the email was simply ignored. A second email a month later did get a short, sympathetic-sounding response, and then nothing. It wasn't until another exasperated email from Sacramento in January 2018 that Animal Care and Control finally acknowledged that Hudson had been located, sort of, and then did nothing more. Having themselves successfully helped conceal the location of a dangerous dog for a year and a half, there was nothing for them to do but concede that they had not done their job from the beginning. It appears they never again did anything to try and track down Hudson or Jennifer Malozzi. The home in Carmichael has since been sold, and surely the couple and their dog have disappeared for good as far as San Francisco Animal Care and Control is concerned. Now, one might be inclined to consider that this subversion of laws intended to protect the safety of the public was all inadvertent negligence. Gross but inadvertent negligence. But there's one little problem with that theory. There had been a witness at the June 23, 2016 hearing who spoke out in Hudson's defense.
Hi, and your name for the record?
Stephanie. My last name is Pone. Regarding my experience with Hudson, I was his dog walker for about 3 years. He's been my favorite dog. Hudson has an exceptionally responsible owner.
What Stephanie Pone did not tell the hearing officer was that she was an employee of San Francisco Animal Care and Control. And after the hearing officer's decision came down, a distraught Ms. Pone wrote an impassioned email to her superior at Animal Care and Control noting what an ordeal this had been for her, while blasting the hearing officer's judgment. And in July 2016, weeks after the condemned dog was supposed to have at least been registered as dangerous by Animal Care and Control, but wasn't, without any notice of a legal appeal of the decision having been provided, and at a time when Shirley Hudson's owner, Ms. Malozzi, must have already been in the process of skipping town with the dog, Animal Control Officer Stephanie Pone, also known as Stephanie Rose Thurston, posted a comment on Ms. Malozzi's Facebook photo of Hudson, the dog that had so grievously injured a young woman in a public park. Best dog ever.
What the hell do those mean? Can't stop. I have to hit one of them. Man or dog? Oh, it's a Snoopy's choice. I guess your days of eating out of the garbage are over, Dill.
Does the defendant ask this court to believe that in order to avoid hitting a dog, it is acceptable to hit a human?
A dog?
He saved a dog?
Oh, you've got to save a dog.
Human beings, peculiarly, sometimes are more stricken by harm done to animals than to their fellow humans. And maybe the story of Hudson is simply an example of that guilty lack of feeling for our own kind that comes with knowing just what flawed creatures we are. But it should not be imagined that poor helpless animals don't suffer equally from Animal Care and Control's recklessness. One of the civil grand jury's most powerful conclusions about San Francisco's Animal Control Department was this: "We are thoroughly convinced of their devotion to the well-being of animals. Their current practices do not show the same devotion to public safety against dog attacks and bites. But even that faith in Animal Care and Control's devotion to the well-being of animals has to be misplaced when one sees that so many of the victims of dog attacks and bites are other people's pets, most often other people's dogs. All that can honestly, confidently be said is that there is something dreadfully wrong at Animal Care and Control." In these circumstances, in which the city ignores the shot into a crowd of people that is an uncontrolled dog, it's hard not to expect another Diane Whipple or Nicholas Fabish. Certainly there will be other injuries, other innocent victims, other Emma Howells and Pee-wees, other avoidable suffering.
And I just kept thinking, like, this dog's not going to stop biting us.
Or just other insults from Animal Care and Control, like the captain who accused a father of being bent on retribution when he asked Animal Care and Control to enforce the leash and muzzle order on a vicious and dangerous dog, a dog that had bitten 2 children, including his son. And John Denny, a man with a conscience about what he has seen unfolding in the city, his reward for an incisive, constructive critique of the problems has been to end up forced out of his position as an independent hearing officer for the vicious and dangerous dog hearings by the very Animal Control Department that has endangered the public's safety. And precisely because he has shown a light on that department's mismanagement, which has now spread to the entire vicious and dangerous dog hearing process, with Animal Care and Control compromising its independence while installing unqualified, inexperienced hearing officers, and even protecting one hearing officer who made racially prejudicial remarks about one of the complainants who had appeared before him. All the way round, Animal Care and Control has fostered an erratic, broken system that can't be counted on to deal with dangerous dogs.
We've gotten to the point now where something very bad is going to happen, and we're all going to be wondering why we didn't do something